Are you thinking about making a move and Idaho happens to be at the top of your list, but maybe you have some questions about affordability, cost of living, crime rate, taxes, retiring, and so on? Well, in today's video, I'm going to try to address all of those questions and more and paint a picture of what it's like to accurately live, work, and play here in Idaho. The reason I think I can give you guys a pretty good idea or understanding of what it's like to live in Idaho is because, well, for one, was born and raised here, and around 11 or 12, my family and we moved to Vancouver, Washington, which if you're not familiar, that's just north of Portland, Oregon. A few years later, we ended up moving to California. And in all, I've actually lived in California, Washington State, and Idaho now on two separate occasions. And I spent a good amount of time in all three of those states. So I feel like I will be able to accurately compare and describe to you guys the differences between the three states and what to expect if you do decide to relocate here to Idaho. So with that said, guys, if this is your first time tuning in, I just want to say thank you. My name is Mike. I'm a realtor here in Nampa. On this channel, I try to help educate buyers and sellers so that way when they go out into the market, they're educated and confident in the decisions that they make. I also try to update you guys on the latest trends and keep you in the know on the current market as it sits. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into some of the reasons why people are moving here and what it's like to live here in Idaho. Idaho was the second fastest growing state in the nation in 2022. And there were several reasons for that uptick in growth. One of the reasons was COVID. There were a lot of people that were relocating here that were trying to escape the ridiculous mandates that some of their governors were putting on them. Second reason, which kind of goes hand in hand, I think, with COVID, was politics. Idaho is a very staunch Republican state, one of the most conservative states in the union. During the COVID years, the blue states, they had their own course of action for dealing with COVID. The red states had a different course of action. Red states tended to stay open and have less restriction and mandates, where the blue states went the opposite. And so we definitely had a lot of people fleeing their states and coming to Idaho because of that as well. Another big push that people decided to move to Idaho, especially from states like Washington, California, and Oregon, is our cost of living is still very reasonable here. Out of the 11 most Western states, Idaho is by far the cheapest. We all know that in the last few years, things have gotten really expensive, whether that's eggs, gas, food, cost of living in general has gone up. But here in Idaho, our average cost of gas right now is $3.70. And that is up over $1 from when we first moved here in October of 21. So it's definitely up, but everything's up. And if you compare that to the price of gas in California, we were just in San Diego not too long ago, and the price of gas down there was $1.50, $2 more than it was here. It was really shocking to see. The average home price here in Nampa is $417,000. Median annual household income for Nampa is just over $62,000. And just to give you guys kind of an understanding of what it's like comparison-wise to live here versus in other states, if you compare Boise, Idaho to Seattle, Washington, Boise is 32% cheaper to live in. Now, me and my wife, we lived in Vancouver, Washington, and Vancouver is substantially cheaper than Seattle was. And we still felt like there was a big difference between the cost of living in Vancouver versus the cost of living here in Nampa. I mean, gas is cheaper, food was cheaper. Our money goes so much further here. So that was definitely one of the big positives that we noticed right away when we moved here. One of the other comparisons is Boise is clean. Every time I bring a client from a different state through downtown Boise, it's always the same reaction. It is always shock and awe of how clean everything is. You might see a homeless person, one or two, but it is not a problem. There are no tents. It's one or two panhandlers maybe. There's next to no graffiti. Sidewalks are clean. You feel safe walking downtown Boise, day or at night. And not to mention, Idaho is ranked 41st when it comes to violent crime rate. So we are down at the very bottom of the list when it comes to violent crime. And I think you noticed that when you were walking around the streets, whether it's downtown Boise, Nampa, downtown Caldwell, or in Meridian, you just feel safe. And I don't know if that's because we have constitutional carry and everyone around you is packing heat, but It is safe and you definitely notice it and feel it. So some other things that I get asked about, especially from the Californians that I help relocate here, is the weather. How much snow do we get? Am I gonna be shoveling snow for 3-6 months out of the year? Am I not gonna be able to get out of my house? And I am here to tell you that the snow that we get during the winter really isn't that bad. Most of the time we'll get a couple inches, a little flurries here and there, you know, overnight and into the early morning. But by midday, it's pretty much gone. And during the morning rush hour commute times, the main roads are all plowed and very well taken care of. You might have a little bit of a difficulty time going from driveway, getting through your neighborhood to the main roads, but normally it's not too bad. You know, you get some studded tires or some change and you're totally fine. Or just get an all-wheel drive vehicle. I am utterly shocked at how many people I see that do not have all-wheel drive vehicles nowadays. But key note that I want to make sure you guys are aware of: if you don't want to shovel snow off your driveway, buy a house that faces south or west and you'll be fine. By early afternoon, late afternoon, the snow will be melted, you'll have no problems. Spring and fall are some of the most beautiful times to come and visit Idaho. If you haven't been here, I highly recommend it. The colors are amazing. It's hard to beat. Summers can get hot, but you know, there's a month or so where you might see some triple-digit numbers, but it's really not that bad. And here, being in what they consider a high desert, we tend to almost always have a breeze. In the summer, that breeze kind of helps things, you know, stay cool and more comfortable. And so yeah, it's really nice. And you know, coming from California where it's sunny all the time, I think the variety is really nice. And for people that are moving from the Pacific Northwest like Oregon and Washington, you know, it rains 10 months out of the year there. Here, I know one of the selling points for my wife is, you know, we were gonna get like an extra 100 days of sunlight here versus Vancouver weather. So it is nice. The variety is nice. By the time winter's over, you're over it, you're ready for summer. And by the time summer's over, you're ready for the cooler months. It is a really nice balance that I think most people after a year or two get very comfortable with. So we've talked some about the economics of what it's like to live here, cost of living, and so on. We've talked about the weather. Now I want to jump into the fun part of Idaho, right? The recreational activities that Idaho has to offer. So majority of our land here in Idaho is available to the public, whether that's government owned or publicly owned. It's available for us to go hunt, hike, and play in, whether you're wanting to boat and do water sports, or if you want to get up into the mountains, whether that's in the winter or summer. Everything that you could want as far as outdoor activities you can find here in Idaho. We have sand dunes, we have mountains to hike and ski on, we have lakes and rivers to fish and float on. You really can't beat it. And what's even better about it, especially here in the Treasure Valley, is everything's like within an hour or two. You're not gonna have to drive several hours to get to the mountains. You're not gonna have to drive several hours to get to a place to go camp or fish at. It's all in our backyard. Maybe you're looking at Idaho as a place to retire. So taxes are probably gonna be a little bit more important to you. And so I wanna dive into that for a little bit. I mean, our taxes in general are pretty favorable compared to other states. Our state's income tax rate here is sitting at 6.9%. and the sales tax rate is at 6%. Now there are services, especially for seniors, to get discounts on property taxes. Same with veterans. If you're 100% disability connected, you can get a discount on your property taxes. But we also have the homestead exemption. Basically takes your property taxes and reduces them by $125,000 here in Canyon County. I want to say in Ada County it's very similar as well. And what that does is it just lowers your tax assessed value by that $125,000, giving everyone a little bit of a break. You can only do it on your primary residence, and typically you register for this after the purchase of your home. But yeah, it's a great resource. And the climate, that might be the only negative, is because of the winters. I know as people get older, they want to deal less and less with the cold. And so that might be a detractor for some people if they are looking to retire here, specifically in the Boise area. All right, so we've talked about stats. I've gone over a ton of research that I've done, but it doesn't explain what it feels like to live in Idaho. And I think when you're looking to relocate to a state, that's what you want to know most about. But unless you live here, you're not going to know what it's like to be part of Idaho and part of the community. And so by starting off, I just want to mention two things that I hear from my clients the most that have relocated to Idaho. The number one thing is they are always shocked at how nice people are. And they always mention it to me. They'll call me or text me and they're just like, Mike, we can't believe how nice people are here. You know, strangers will still say hi, smile, and wave, you know. I had clients that came in from California, had an older couple with a young dog come up to them, and they were just like, the older couple asked them if they would pet and help socialize their dog. And they started up a conversation, you know, and my clients were absolutely shocked. They're like, this just doesn't happen in California. They were from the LA area. And two, that there still feels like there's a sense of community and lend a hand when you need it. You know, our daughters play out in our front yard and we feel totally safe about it. You'll hear the kids in the neighborhood, you know, riding their bikes, yelling and screaming during the summer nights, having a ball, you know. Our neighbors come over for barbecues and we hang out, you know, and we talk over our fences to each other and say how we're doing. I know most of my neighbors by name. I don't know why, but there's a sense of community here. People want to help. They want to look after each other and take care of one another. A word of advice, if you guys are moving here from one of those 3 states, Oregon, Washington, or California, or maybe another blue state, go ahead and get those license plates changed ASAP. It'll benefit you, I promise. But you know, guys, that's basically all I have for you. I hope I was able to touch on some key topics for you and answer some questions that maybe you guys had that you couldn't find the answer to. Hopefully you got some value out of this. If I miss anything, please leave it down in the comments. I'll be sure to get back to you. And if you are considering relocating to Idaho and you're looking for some help, please feel free to reach out. I would love to chat with you about your search and how we can get you down here. I've helped plenty of people relocate and I'd love to help you guys get into Idaho. You will not be disappointed at all. I've helped many of people move here and they all said it was the best decision they've ever made. I know from personal experience, me and my wife, we couldn't have been happier coming back to Idaho. So I look forward to hearing from you guys. Hope I can help you get here to Idaho, live that American dream that everyone deserves. But until next time, I'll see you in the next one.